I have a question.
Yeah.
Why is the control room empty? Should there be somebody here like directing us?
Oh, he's below the board. He's short.
Oh, wait. That?
Yeah.
Is that my son?
It is.
Why is my...
Quiet, please.
Maxwell, how did you get here today?
He took a bus.
He took a bus?
Yeah, came on the bus.
Has he been here the whole time?
He was the assistant and he's just been moved up.
Oh, he's been promoted?
Yeah, well, it's a union
great.
gig.
He's union, isn't he?
Has been since he was 3.
Wow. It's at 3.
Four,
At 3, they get the card.
2.
The Awful Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense, episode number 17. I'm Jeff Parker.
And I'm the other guy.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at how copyright law affects AI and our big changes coming to banking.
So no aviation, just AI.
We'll see what we can put in.
Put some planes in there somewhere.
Maybe. Just a sound of planes flying
Sprinkle
over.
them in.
We'll put them in, yeah.
My son can do it in post.
It's National Teach Your Children to Save Day.
I mean, he hoards his Bitcoin. Does that count?
Is your child a big cryptocurrency guy?
Yeah, but he prints them out on paper and then puts them in his piggy bank just for nostalgia.
Fantastic.
I don't understand why.
It's also Take Your Daughters and Sons to Work Day, as I can see you've done.
Well, I didn't bring him. He was already here, but
Well,
I
no,
guess technically
he took the bus. I know.
he did take the bus.
How's your week going?
So far, so good. I mean, a little weird now that my kid's working here, but
Afraid to say anything now, aren't you?
yeah. Well, I have been on a table buying spree.
What's a table buying spree?
In the past 5 days, I've literally bought 3 tables from the fine folks over at Crate and Barrel in El
Do you just
Segundo.
have empty rooms that need tables? Why does one do this?
Not anymore. Like, the outdoor furniture gets tired after a while, so you
Yeah.
got to replace that because the sun's a killer. And then I was like, well, I can't have a small dining table, so we got a bigger one.
Did you buy teak for outdoors?
I did buy teak for outdoors. Here's the part that I was most proud of. I was able to fit 2 of these 8-foot tables and 14 chairs all in the back of my Excursion.
Let me tell you what I've been doing with my week is I've been watching basketball games, and so my voice is totally trashed.
Yeah.
My friend Adam has a phrase which I have commandeered as my own, the effing reffing.
Effing reffing?
So I have to yell and scream at the refs just to keep them in line. By the way, I did feel in game 3, I needed to yell, doing great refs, because they were making very few errors. Reffing in game 3 was exceptional.
Did they appreciate that?
Well, I didn't ever yell it. But game 4, they were right back to, that was a different ref crew. Game 4, they were right back to just being absolutely dreadful.
Terrible. Do they just need glasses?
They need to watch the game.
Maybe they have astigmatism.
Sometimes rulings are just so inconsistent.
Sure.
All right. Somewhere here we have headlines, and I have an intro to it somehow. Oh, here we go. Let's get to our headlines.
Yeah, let's do that. It hasn't changed in 17 episodes, and you had to go read it. What is it? Oh yeah, our headline. Let's get to the headline.
Apple's App Store can stay closed, but developers can link to outside payments, says appeals court.
This is the Apple ruling where both Apple and
Epic
Epic
Games, yeah.
Yeah, they both appealed the same ruling, which I thought was fantastic.
Sure. They both
For different
don't like
reasons.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
Both
In
weren't
opposite
happy.
directions.
So my understanding is Apple's still allowed to do whatever the fuck they want, but they have to allow developers to link to outside payment providers.
Right, but then do developers still have to pay them a third of those payments from other
I don't think so.
payment providers?
Not if you link out.
Because that's the rules. You're
Right.
supposed to pay them a third.
Yep.
So if you link out, now you pay them nothing?
I
How does that? I don't think that would change anything, right?
Yeah, I think it's not in the app. I don't really know. It's a good question. I'm assuming if you go out to the web and it's not in the app, then you can just fund your account however you want.
This whole thing about the Apple App Store being the exclusive provider of apps, the European Union is going to change this, I would
the
bet.
side loading?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this. Like, yes, I want it to be open, but I also don't want it to be full of spam and shit, which I think is part of the problem when you open it. Like, you don't have somebody policing it.
As somebody who's on the other side, as an Android phone, I can tell you, and I do have 2 app stores that I use a lot.
Yeah.
I use the regular Google App Store and I use F-Droid, and I've never had a problem with spamming or any problems.
I didn't hear you. My superiority complex kicked in.
You're proud of the fact that your phone does less than mine?
There's plenty of like malware Android apps that are terrible.
I think there has been in the past. There hasn't been in quite a while.
Is it all through what? Through
Somehow they're doing it through computers. They're going through code and they know what to do. I don't know. It's all computers.
I thought you were going to say windmills. Thank God you said computers. They do it all through, I don't know, computers. That's going to be my, I'm
be
stealing
through
that
computers.
answer. Someone's like, well, how does the system work? It's all through computers.
Plastics. That's what it is now.
I'm at the checkout line at Ralph's, and I'm just like, it's all in computers.
Computers.
It's all ball bearings these days.
Apple's got humans going through apps looking for various things. And there are
what a terrible job that is.
So I don't think you're going to have those problems.
Yeah.
Scientists may have figured out how to regenerate lost hearing.
That sounds good. I think I can't hear it.
A team at Harvard Medical School says they've come up with a new drug cocktail of molecules that can regenerate the hair cells. That's how your ear works in the inner ear to enable hearing.
I'll leave it to the folks in Harvard to figure it out.
I had to play it back in my head. What is he saying?
Why is he having having
something
a stroke?
happened to him? Exactly.
I don't understand. So this is a pill that regrows
It's not
the
a pill.
Okay.
It's something you have to put actually into the inner ear.
Okay.
They've done it in mice.
Okay.
Don't think about that too hard. They've put it in and they've repaired hearing in mice.
I'm sure there's a good source for
deaf mice.
that can't hear.
I'm sure. I'm sure they wait till deaf mice come along
I'm sure
before
they
do the
manufacture those.
experimenting.
Yeah, absolutely. They took deaf mice,
Yes.
put this stuff in their ears.
Correct.
And then it regrew.
Fish, birds, reptiles can all regenerate their own hairs.
I didn't know that.
But humans cannot.
Is it specifically only regrows hair in my ear, or like do I put this in and then I turn into Chewbacca?
No, I think it's just your ears.
Just your ear?
I think this is Rogaine for your ears. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Ear gain.
But it could have a profound impact on individuals who have lost part of their hearing.
That sounds lovely.
World's largest battery maker announces major breakthrough in energy density.
This is the pink bunny with a little drum?
It is not. This is Cattle. CATL has announced a new condensed battery that has 500 watt hours per kilogram, which is remarkable. And the interesting thing about it, everybody's got lots of new battery technologies. That happens all the time. The state-of-the-art batteries are somewhere around 270 to 300, just below 300 watt hours per kilogram.
Yep.
These are 500. And the amazing thing about this is this will go into production this year.
That's crazy.
When you start to get above 500 watt hours per kilogram, you can start to make aviation. You can start to make things fly.
Oh, I feel
because it's light enough.
By the way, +1 to you working an airplane in the headline segment.
Well, sure. No, I do what I can.
Electric planes, to me, I feel like we got a ways to go. In theory,
yes, the engine that it runs off of little explosions is safer. Is that what you're saying?
There's a lot of there's a lot of moving parts. I'll give you that. And they have their fit.
Yes, a jet that's running on kerosene is so much safer. It's a flying bomb.
You should say that next time you're in line at TSA.
Nope.
Please. You'll be taking the bus to Nashville
Exactly.
now.
You'll be taking the bus to Hawaii.
Ooh, that's a long bridge.
Anyway, this is very cool. I mean, battery technology does make advancements actually quite frequently, and mostly we ignore it. But this is a huge jump, almost double, 80% improvement. That's pretty impressive.
I'm pro battery.
No, it's changed the world.
Also pro capacitor. I think there's still opportunity with capacitors.
You could power your Tesla with a capacitor is what you're saying? Yeah, if you don't mind if you get rear-ended and you send a lightning bolt that knocks a 20-foot hole in the ground. Yeah, that's fine. Other than that, that's a great idea.
You run it through the flux capacitor, you'll be fine.
I like how fast they charge.
Yeah.
I also don't like how fast you
discharge.
die.
Yeah. There's that. I didn't say it didn't come with risks.
No, there's some problems there.
There are some challenges.
Chip designer ARM makes its own advanced prototype semiconductor.
This makes total sense to me.
This is from the Department of It's About Time.
Yeah. What have you been waiting for? You literally own the reference design.
It costs a lot of money, though, manufacturing a chip like that, and especially if you don't have any goals for doing anything with it. Not that they don't.
Who do they have making it?
Taiwan Semiconductor.
We should cover those guys.
Company.
We don't talk about those guys enough.
But they say they don't have any immediate plans for it.
Yeah, that makes
what
no
that
sense
means is they will make the prototype, and if it works, they'll figure out some plans.
Yeah, exactly.
Some plans will come up.
It just isn't like a hobby project.
No, it's a very expensive hobby.
We're trying to make the world's largest vacuum. That's a hobby project. They're like, no, we're making chips.
They will be able to undercut everyone who makes ARM chips. And by the way, ARM chips are cheap to begin with.
Totally.
It's a great open source project. Do you follow the RISC-V project?
No. RISC, like RISC-V?
Yes, correct,
No.
correct. Reduced instruction set chip.
I follow CISC-V.
That project's going nowhere.
I'm a more complex
That
individual.
project's dead. No, this is an open source project, and I think it started in Berkeley or whatever, but it will bring down the cost of chips by an order of a magnitude if they're able to be successful.
How so?
No, license fees.
Oh, license fees. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what you pay for mostly when you're paying for an ARM. Snapchat sees a spike in 1-star reviews as users pan the My AI feature, calling for its removal.
Not a spike you want to see. Nobody goes, wow, we got a real big spike in 1-star reviews. And you're like, well, how are 0-star reviews? Well, those are down because you can't actually give a 0-star review.
Do you think there's a live real-time graph that's showing you the review number, and all of a sudden they just dive down to 1 stars?
Totally. Yep.
People didn't like this because this thing was at the top, right? That
I don't
could talk
know.
to their AI.
I'm too old to be a Snapchat user. I think it's because they forced it to be at the top of your chat list. So basically, they forced the inventory on this My AI thing that people.
But you could go one below it. It's like Gmail puts ads at the top of my
Are you a
Gmail list.
How would you do that?
How would I do it?
Go one below. Like you
I'm
use
a
your
futurist.
finger.
Yes, I am a futurist.
Wow.
I would use one of my digits.
I would subscribe to your well, okay, easy, buddy. Second, I would subscribe to your newsletter. What are you doing with your phone, sir? I'm using one of my digits. Ah, fuck. Sir, you're on a bus with the youngest audio engineer ever in the world.
Well, he's got to get home.
He's got to get home somehow. He'll be late for playtime.
People dig AI unless it's on Snapchat.
Yeah. Do people dig AI? I think a lot of people are freaking out about AI.
Unnecessarily.
Sure. Agreed. Unnecessarily.
Oh my God.
Freaking out
Please
about
let's
it.
not slow down the development of this.
I'm just spreading gas on all the rhetoric around how AI is going to replace everything. Like, yep.
You are. You're kind of.
Yep. Plumber's going to replace them.
That I want to see.
A little Boston robot over with some AI.
GPT may be trademarked soon if OpenAI has its way.
This can't work.
I don't know. I think it's too late to trademark GPT.
I think that
It's
cat's a little bit out of the bag.
In the general usage.
Sure.
Generative pre-trained transformer is what it stands for, but everybody uses it.
In related news, Nestle is trademarking water.
Right.
Like,
By the way, if anybody could do it, Nestle could. They're the ones who can figure out how to make that happen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to drink some of that? No, that's ours. But I found it in the lake. No, that's all ours. The whole lake is ours.
We bought the whole rates to water. Even the stuff coming down from the sky, that's ours too.
Also ours. If you hold your mouth open, you have to pay us $0.25 when it's raining. I understand.
It's hilarious, but it's really kind of close to the truth.
It's sad to be true. Yeah.
Okay, enough of the headlines. Up next, we're going to talk about how copyright law stumbles in an AI world.
I hope you like it. Hit the button.
I own that.
Hit the button.
Copyrighted.
Did I owe you a quarter?
A lot more than a quarter.
I'm going to challenge you. The basis for copyright protection stems directly from the U.S. Constitution. Did you know that?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was in the Constitution.
Yeah.
The framers believe that securing, for limited times at least, exclusive rights of authors would promote the progress of science and useful arts. So the primary purpose, right, is to induce and reward authors. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think the theory is that by granting certain exclusive rights to creators, they can protect their works and ultimately monetize them, which encourages them to make more things.
Right.
My first time going to the electronic sourcing fair in Taiwan was with a friend of mine who's a listener to this show. I remember walking through the show and they would just yell at you with they would literally say copy whatever it was. They have
sure.
Like copy iPod. They'd be like, copy iPod, copy iPod. It was literally, everything was there. It was just a clone.
Movies that and literally a guy has taken a video camera and he's videoed a movie, including people walking in front of the screen.
Yeah, except when you get the video version where they shot the Blair Witch Project, it actually stabilized because the shaking matched it. So that guy I give credit to. All the other ones are totally shit, but that one worked out. Copyright law is intended to serve the purpose of enriching the general public through access to creative works. It's important to understand that copyright law imposes no obligation upon creators to make those works available. Right.
Okay,
so so there's also this category of like unpublished works that are never distributed.
Right.
Yep. Now there's some history around this, and I did not know the history. I know a little bit of it, but I want to dig into this really quickly. So this goes back to the Copyright Act of 1790. Mm-hmm. So you probably don't remember that. You were young. You were like in your teens.
Okay.
Yeah. And the length of the copyright established by the founding fathers was 14 years, plus the ability to renew it one time for 14 more.
So it doesn't matter when you die. It has nothing to do with your age. It's just 14 years from publication.
You had to be alive for the renewal. I think it was when you published it, you had 14 years and you had to be alive in order to get the renewal.
So your heirs could not renew it.
I believe, don't quote me, I'm definitely not a copyright scholar, but I think that was the case. Mm-hmm. And the language that they put in was the Congress shall have power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive rights to their respective writings and discoveries. So it really did seem like they were focused on the people, the creators themselves, not their heirs, as you mentioned.
Yeah. And discoveries makes me think that's part of patents.
Yeah.
Was that like a broader version of
that's my hunch.
copyright law?
I don't know, but I suspect that was the case.
Okay.
In 1831, 40 years later, the initial term was changed to 28 years, and then they retained the option for another 14 years.
Okay.
So now you've gone from 14 and 14 to 28 and 14. They also added musical compositions in 1831. Go forward another 75 years, and the Copyright Act of 1909 allowed for works to be copyrighted for a period of 28 years from date of publication and extended for another 14 to 28. So now they've gone from 1414 to 2814 to now 2828.
Yeah.
Why they're operating in units of 14 is fucking beyond me. Maybe they were base 14 back then. I don't know. This stayed the same for 70 years. It's a joke for all my Hex listeners.
That's so funny.
So now this stayed the same for about another 70 years until the Copyright Act of 1976. Now the copyright would last for the life of the author plus 50 years or 75 years from publication or 100 years from creation, whichever is shorter. right?
Oh, whichever is shorter.
Whichever is shorter.
Interesting.
Then in 1998, the Sonny Bono Copyright Term Extension Act,
Babe, I got you, babe.
aka Mickey Mouse Protection Act, extended these terms to life of the author plus 70 years and works of corporate authorship to 120 years after creation or 95 years after publication, whichever is earlier. And that's pretty much what we have in place today.
Right. Although they slipped in a little carve out that's kind of interesting.
Unless you're Disney, you can keep everything forever. Was that carve out in there?
I'm surprised that carve out isn't in there because that's where all this comes from. But no, authors can reclaim their copyrights after 35 years. Copyrights.
Oh, interesting.
If it's not a work for hire. So this is how Paul McCartney has gotten back many of the Beatles songs that he didn't have. The 35 years passed, and then you just can declare that you're reclaiming, you're taking your copyrights back.
Sell it. So I can sell my copyright work to you.
Yes.
And then I set a timer on my iPhone for 35 years.
And you can take it back.
I can just take it back.
100%.
No restitution, no payment to you. I just take it back.
I'm not a lawyer, but you definitely should go by my advice.
We should do that. I'm going to do it for this show. This show in 35 years, I'm taking this episode, just this one.
I have some bad news for you.
Oh, shit. You can do the same thing, can't you?
You already own the copyright to this show.
Oh, crap. I don't want it. That sounds like a liability.
Yeah. No,
it's not an asset.
Good luck with that.
That's the opposite. Oh, no.
When Wells Fargo comes after us, they're coming after you.
No habla inglés, senor. Senor Parker, see? Yes.
But Paul McCartney made some songs with Michael Jackson.
Yep.
And when they were doing it, Michael Jackson says, how do you invest your money? What do you do? And Paul McCartney says, a really good thing is you should buy the publishing to your music.
Sure.
You're going to want to control what your music does and doesn't do. You're not going to want to do a bunch of advertising and all that. So Michael Jackson goes and immediately buys a catalog collection full of Paul McCartney's music.
That's not what I meant, you asshole.
And I don't think they ever spoke again. I think that was literally the end of the relationship.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then he proceeded to use that catalog, which is why you heard tons of Beatles songs being used in advertising, much to Paul McCartney's chagrin.
Yeah.
So Paul McCartney was trying to get as much of that stuff as he could, and he missed that one piece that went to Michael Jackson. Finally, after 35 years,
reverted back.
It came back to him.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's pretty fascinating.
Again, I'm going to put a big asterisk next to this and say, do not take copyright advice from me. I don't know. I'm just telling you stories I've heard.
This whole segment should be labeled with may not be true.
We are not lawyers.
We're not sure. So I thought that was sort of fascinating background. Hasn't been extended since 98. Okay. So it's been 24-ish years. I don't happen to think it's going to get extended again, but I mean, who knows, right?
Mickey Mouse feature films are coming up. Disney's still there.
Are they making feature films with Mickey? No way.
Not making them. They have made them, and they are about to. Like Steamboat Willie has to be in the public domain by now, is my guess.
Yeah.
And I would imagine when they get to the more expensive ones, they're not going to want those to fall into the public domain.
But I kind of believe it's all it's not about the value of the character as much as it is what they've built around the franchise and how much it's been promoted. So you just wind that down.
Well, now you can use Mickey Mouse dressed up in the Steamboat Willie costume if you want, all you want. Because it's in the public domain.
Yes, and Disney's
not going to sit around for that. Do you think?
I think they will. I think they'll roll enough of a. I do. I think they'll roll enough of.
You think the lobbying arm of Disney is going to fold their arms and say, "That's good enough. Let's let Mickey go out to the world."
Well, I mean, how much revenue are they going to extract from Steamboat Willie in the next 10 to 100 years?
Yeah, I think Disney's interested in the pennies.
Really? You
Yeah.
think they're going to be down there picking them and be like, well, you showed one Steamboat Willie clip, that's $1, and then nobody cares about Steamboat Willie.
For whatever reason, I think Steamboat Willie has gotten out, but I don't know. I don't know that for sure. I'm just saying that because it seems like time-wise that would be the case. Walt's been, I don't even know when Walt died. 66 when did Walt die? Yeah. So it's got to have been 70 years.
Yeah.
Plus,
but I mean, at some point, do you think the lawyer with the straight face can go in front of a judge and be like, well, we should really extend this. We haven't been able to monetize Mickey Mouse enough. 100 years isn't long enough. We really need 200 years.
Wow, you don't know lawyers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do. In my mind, I like to think of them
they
as...
will say whatever you pay them
whatever
to
you
say.
want. Yes, apparently. I find this... I do not think this is going to be extended. I do think they're like, enough is enough.
I don't think it's ever too late if you have prized assets that you want to keep out of the public domain.
I get that they're prized assets, but like, what's coming up next? Snow White and Fantasia?
Those are expensive projects.
Certainly. But
I mean, Snow White is...
How many kids under 14 know about either of those?
I don't know, but they probably still make money from them. So I can't imagine Disney leaves anything dormant.
Well, they can keep making money from it. It just means somebody else could rip it off.
Right. They're not going to want that.
I feel like their strategy has become build new assets, build new characters.
Buy new assets. I don't think
buy new assets. Sure. Well, they built. No, Mandalorian was built. I mean, effectively, right?
They bought Lucasfilm.
Well, yeah. Okay. They bought the start of it. Sure. But you build or buy these new assets, and then you develop them for 20, 30, 40 years, and then you let them slowly wither. And you go on to the next thing. So excluding AI, do you think the current copyright system works well? in your opinion?
Well, I own some IP, and
I know, you're
biased.
biased.
I have some. Yes, I have some bias. I have some skin in the game. Mostly, it works okay. Mostly, it works okay.
Give me the top 3 things it does poorly.
I don't even know if this exists anymore. There used to be this thing called BitTorrents.
Yeah,
where people would just freely distribute things that you had copyright ownership of, and just didn't really seem to care.
Yep.
That's probably 1 through 3 for me.
Is that 1 through 3?
Yeah.
Do you think it's safe to say that the modern day BitTorrent is the equivalent of like taping songs off the radio of the 80s? Remember when like cassette tapes came out? Like
it was a lot slower.
Of course.
You got a lot fewer of them, but sure. And by the way, the courts ruled that you could tape on a cassette tape. Yeah, fair use. You could tape songs off the radio.
Totally. Which is a little different.
You weren't reselling them then, or you weren't, making copies and giving them away to all your friends.
Why is it different? This is not where I was planning on going with this, but I like talking about it. So if it's fair use for me, something to play on the radio, be broadcast, received by me, and then put on tape for my personal use.
Well, to play it on the radio station had to pay for
a license fee.
an ASCAP license or BMI license or whatever.
So why today can't I play something on Spotify and record it? I mean, I appreciate it's different, but it's squishy to me of where it's different. I should be able to record things. If I can record things off the air.
I'm understanding that. It's just, this is not something I've ever given thought to before, but
here we are.
Makes a lot. Again, we need to have a pre-production meeting someday. But yes, I don't understand why that's different. You
I
are
put one on the
absolutely
calendar
correct.
for episode 65. Right before episode 65, we're going to do a big pre-production meeting. Along that same line of thoughts, when I buy a CD, for whatever,
can you still buy CDs?
I don't know.
I was going to ask you.
I don't know. I'm guessing somewhere. Let's go back in time. It says 1996.
Right.
I go to
Also, nobody buys music anymore now. We just license it for a period of time.
Exactly.
We don't even own it.
Exactly. So, and that's what I'm leading up to. Thanks for cutting right to the chase. You're very good about this. No, it's okay. 1996. I go buy a CD. I pay $12, whatever it is, $18. I own, quote unquote, the CD.
The copy. Right.
I own the physical medium.
Yes.
So now I can take that CD and I can sell it to you for $5.
Correct.
That's okay.
Correct.
That's acceptable.
You can,
right?
you actually could sell it to record stores. They used to buy used CDs.
I used to go to them. CD Exchange in Glendale. Rest in peace. It was lovely. I understand that. And that's me owning the physical copy of the thing.
Right. And that was legal to do.
Yep. But if I lost the physical copy, there were no give backsies, right? I didn't get another one.
No, of course not.
Okay. But now I don't actually own the song. I license the song. I shouldn't say now because now we're in streaming age. Pre-streaming like iTunes. I'm just buying a license to the song.
Correct.
Right? So I have a license to the song and then I can use it in multiple places. I can use a license just for me.
You can use it for you. You can't. You're not allowed to publicly perform it.
Understood.
Yeah.
But can I put it on multiple devices?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. That's where it starts to get tricky, right? They start to get grumpy about that. Streaming is a different animal.
I have Spotify on my desktop computer. I have Spotify on my laptop. I have Spotify on my phone. And by the way, I have several other music services. I vowed never to pay for a music service, and I'm pretty sure I'm paying for 4.
All of them?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Turns out never turns into all real quick. Once you get to TV, it gets worse. No, but now we're in this license world where like I'm just paying for access to a catalog. I'm not even paying for songs anymore, right? So this happened with the Rovio acquisition. Somebody went back to download the first version of Angry Birds they bought like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And they went back, and not only was it no longer called Angry Birds in the App Store, it was called something different.
Why? Why did they change the name?
Because the new quote unquote Angry Birds had a bunch of ads in it. And the one they bought was supposed to be ad free. So it had some other name, and okay, fine. But
so why? So you couldn't find it in the App Store? What was the goal of giving it a new name?
I think so. When you go search for Angry Birds, you don't find that one. You find the other one. But then some folks are complaining because
clever, by the way.
Some people couldn't download it. It wasn't there. Some version they had bought was no longer there because they have no obligation to continue to provide the binary. So if you own the binary...
Well, they lived in Montana, and so it was outlawed from being in the App Store.
Yeah. I'm sorry, was it useful? And in the App Store, you can't use it in Montana. Is it a horse? You can use it. I've always found this fascinating of like, even with the music, if you buy a song from iTunes, again, not streaming, and you download the license to it, they have no obligation to continue to provide the binary. So in some time period, it may just go away, right?
Well, that happened.
The rights holder might bring it back.
Go back one more step. Go to Amazon Kindles.
Yep.
There were books in Kindles that turned out the Kindle didn't have the right to sell.
Whoopsies.
And they took them off of people's Kindles remotely.
Oh, I didn't know that.
People who had paid for the book and it disappeared.
So did they get their money back? They must have got their money back.
I don't remember how this came out. So again,
like everything on this show, it's probably not true.
Consult your local internet. I think what they did was they found a legal version of that and put that back on people's
interesting
Kindles. I'm not positive about that, but they did something to sort of make good.
But this is a real issue, right? Like if you're paying for an app in the App Store, I think most people have an expectation they're going to continue to get it.
Yeah, sure.
But what happens when you can't? But I mean, that's a more complicated problem because unlike music, if you don't update that app every couple of years,
But
it's
if I
dead
paid
anyway.
for the app, I should have like infinite capability to
Negative.
Yeah, but it's a license I'm paying
you
for.
have a license to the binder. You don't,
and there's a term to the license that says
not a term, but there's no term to when you can download it. They don't tell you that you can download this thing.
So
for the
they
next
just
10
have to
years.
they just cease to provide the download. If you want it, you've paid for it.
Oopsie.
You can get it from some,
If you can find it in a closed
If
ecosystem, though, you can't.
It's an APK on Android that you can get off of F-Droid.
Not on App Store, you can't.
Right.
I've always found that a little fascinating. Of like, what are you really buying? You're buying a license to a thing in time. You've got no way to. Well, you can technically back it up and then restore your phone to a new phone. But if you lose your phone, it's gone.
Can you
don't have
back
a
up? I don't even know this is true. If this is true. Can you back up on iOS an individual app? Is there an APK equivalent that you could back up?
I don't think without doing some sort of weird jailbreaking. I don't think you can.
Okay.
I don't think you can like go into iTunes and pull out an app.
A single app.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But it gets pretty complicated pretty quick. Is there a simpler system? Can we do something that's easier?
Sure.
Like without getting to AI, I think copyright's a fucking mess.
Yeah.
And then you add AI and it's like, well, okay, now it's even more of a mess. Like you had 3 sharks in the swimming pool. Now you just dumped a bunch of chum in.
Right.
It's a total disaster. I feel like we should all just sit down and rewrite it.
AI and copyrights. Are you interested in that? Are we going to talk about the Drake and Weeknd song that was released? Because that was kind of an interesting copyright challenge.
I still feel like there's something about that doesn't fit.
Right. Something about that smells bad. But pretend for a minute that it actually was AI generated.
Yep.
We don't know that for sure.
Yep.
There was only one little piece in it, a little part of the music that was copyrighted. That's the reason why they were able to execute the takedown
tag.
notice.
It was just the tag.
Yeah. But if you take that off, now an AI has generated something that sounds exactly like existing artists.
If an AI generated it, big if.
But I mean, let's pretend that an AI generated it. Now, copyright law doesn't cover that.
Yep.
Because it's not a copy of anything.
Which is part of why I think something is sort of stinks here, because what you said I believe to be true. And if that was the case, why isn't there a version of it posted without that tag in seconds that they then can't take down?
Also, whoever heard of the guy who's theoretically
Ghostwriter 7296.
Right, that account existed for 2 minutes before it put up that song.
Look, if I were the guy that did it, I'd put it up with a burner account too. Sure,
probably, yeah, just to see how it would go.
Yeah,
but it's completely possible that
I would have called mine Jeff Parker Ghost 926 just so that nobody could trace it back.
It's possible people. Thank you. It's possible people at Universal Music Group were literally saying, it could be a problem. People could use AI and they could have all the music they want with our artists and we could do nothing about it. We need to preemptively
take one of those B tracks and dump that out there.
Right. Put this out there and let's start the process of building precedent.
I like simple solutions, and that does seem like the simplest solution.
I don't know if that's true. That's completely conspiracy theory thinking. But
I don't know. The computers did it. I don't know.
They do it with computers now.
They do it with computers now. But it doesn't matter what happened in this case because that's going to happen.
Right.
100% going to happen. Right. My first blush on this is I, as a consumer, can consume it, whether it's something I read on Stack Overflow, something I listen to from the Universal Catalog, whatever. Yeah. Then the AI should be allowed to too, right? At least my AI should be allowed to.
Well, then the AI is going to give it away again and again and again.
It's not going to give it away. If it gives it away.
It's going to give away, in the case of coding information, for example, you mentioned Stack Overflow.
Yep.
Once you get the information in the AI of how this little piece works, it forevermore can tell the world how this works.
This is where it gets interesting. The Stack Overflow example, I think, is a harder one to grok right now. Let's just talk about like music for a second or art. If it spit out the exact same track, if that's what it did, then I'd be like, copyright infringement.
Of course.
Right?
But it's not what it did.
But if it changes it substantially, which is exactly what it
created something out of whole cloth.
Completely new, right? Out of whole cloth. Then to me, I go, well, that's different, right?
Yeah.
And
current copyright law does not cover that.
And I can go listen to every single Drake and Weeknd album out there and then go make some new music that might sound like them. Yeah. And they've got no claim to it. If I didn't sample them.
You as a musician could do that. Yes, that's correct. You're not you as an AI.
The difference. That's my.
I mean, this is the other issue. I mean, if you have if you don't even use Frank Sinatra as your input.
Sure.
If you just use Frank Sinatra.
And it sounds like Frank.
If you use Frank Sinatra imitators, now you're not even using Frank Sinatra as input.
Sure.
And you're going to get back a Frank Sinatra song that sounds exactly like Frank Sinatra, a song that he never sang.
Totally.
Now, are you violating, copyright law? I can't picture you are.
If I sound similar to Frank Sinatra and I write a new song and sing it, I'm pretty sure I'm not violating any copyright held by Frank Sinatra's catalog.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge issue.
Huge issue. So I just look at it, sort of keep it simple, stupid. If I as a human can read it or consume it, whatever it is, read, listen, whatever, then the AI should be able to as well.
See, I don't agree with that.
Why not?
Well, again, I'm going to go back to Stack Overflow because now the AI can freely pass back the information. I mean, if the AI,
but so can I. I can read it and go, oh, you need to put a semicolon at the end. I'm pretty fucking fast, man. Come on.
I've seen your code.
Yeah, it's bad one hand. What? But I regurgitate the information. So you're just saying, so you're punishing the AI because it's faster?
I don't have a good answer for this, but yes, I mean, forevermore the AI will be able to give out the answer better 100%. Than Stack Overflow gave it out, and so you'll never need to go to Stack Overflow again. Stack Overflow ceases to exist.
Well, no, it doesn't.
You're going to kill their business.
No, because it's symbiotic. Like those two things have to exist together.
No, Stack Overflow will only exist for like information that's 2 minutes old, and then once the AI grabs it, it's gone.
But where does it get the rest of it? When C++ comes out, somebody's got to tell it how it works.
Tell Bjorn not to name it that, for one thing.
Bjorn, enough of the pluses. So your view is that you need to protect those assets.
You're going to end, and
this feels like,
and I have no dog in this. I have no dog in this fight.
Well, you kind of do because you are a content owner.
But I don't own things like content that someone else put up on a site that is how to do certain kinds of code things.
Sure.
That AI is going to be able to look at once and replicate 1 million times and answer 1 million people's questions on exactly how to do that.
But I mean,
that ends the ad impressions that Stack Overflow gets.
I don't think it ends them. I really don't. Is it a more efficient way to access something?
You're never going to go back to Stack Overflow for information like that didn't come out 2 minutes ago.
I still think you will. I think the majority of it might go away, but I think that's okay. Especially if you've got an attribution model and a model that allows them to get some revenue from it. Now, what that looks like, I don't know. That's a complicated problem.
Yeah.
But if that's the only problem, if it's just monetization, then do we agree that it's a good thing?
If Stack Overflow agrees to it, it's a good thing.
Well, that's where it gets a little complicated
if they don't agree to it. I mean, everybody's locking down their data. Reddit is locking down their data so that AIs can't just suck it up.
Stack Overflow and Reddit are two that are tough for me to... Right. I know in your TOS, you give it all to them. Much like if you take a photo, a stock photo, and you post it at Getty Images, you've agreed to a TOS that says they can do...
Well, but they give me royalty for it.
They do, they do give you royalty for it. All right, up next, Jeff's going to talk about possible big changes coming to the banking world.
Yes, things are changing in banking, unlike everywhere else, apparently.
So we didn't want to bore them enough with copyright. Now we're going to go to banking. This is the driest episode ever. I feel like aviation maintenance is how we should tie up this show with a bow.
Banking is not sexy to you? Banking is sexy, man. You get money for that.
Like we're going to talk about CDs? Okay, so this CD yields 5.6%.
Hit the button.
You put your money into it.
Are you,
yes,
CJ Little, sitting across from me at this table here and now, a person who will look at savings rates, interest rates, and move your account accordingly to try to get higher rates? Is that something you've ever done or thought about doing?
Yes.
And did you do anything about it? Did you actually do it?
A couple times.
Oh, really? So you have. I as well, but I'm a bank nerd.
You're the biggest bank nerd. Well, you're the one of the two biggest bank nerds I know.
Yeah. So tell me why you did this and what was the move?
Well, if you don't need the cash, it's just sitting there. Like, I'll throw it into a CD for a while. Why not?
But that's it. You're staying within the bank. You're just putting it into a different instrument.
Yes. I'm sorry. If your question was about moving banks.
Yes. Have you ever moved banks for better savings rates?
Once for a refi, but kind of no. The answer is kind of no.
And why do you do it in that funny voice?
Because I was trying to think through it and kill time. I don't want to fart during that time, so I feel like it was better for you and your nose. But you make your own decisions. All right. Let me tell you. Ask me again and see what the fuck happens. Okay, buddy.
I am inclined to move my money around for better rates. Now, for savings, no, because here's the problem. You are only FDIC insured for your savings up to $250,000. Get above $250,000 at any one bank, and now you're making an unsecured loan to a highly leveraged counterparty. This is a problem.
No return.
The reason that I bring this up is because Apple has just created a credit card. They have a credit card that they created a while back, and now they are adding to its savings accounts. And it's kind of an interesting thing because they're offering 10x what the country's average interest rate is.
High yield, right?
Yeah, it is high yield, but you have to have the credit card as well. It's got an interesting tie to it.
Do you have to use the card to a certain amount in order order to qualify? Because that'd be smart.
I don't know the answer to that.
That'd be super smart.
The way that they are phrasing it, you can add money to it, but really what they're doing is your cash back that you get from using the card gets dumped into that high yield savings account.
Sure.
But I think a lot of people would happily move their money because most people aren't bank nerds, so they don't care about their interest rates. Yeah. And they're going to see this as a way to get much better interest.
A big part of what keeps me at my existing banking relationships, which might change soon, because my bank was just purchased, is I have all the account numbers and routing numbers memorized, and I have for 20 years, and I just don't want to change them.
Bank accounts traditionally are sticky money.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, they can give you a 0.5% interest rate, and you stay there because you don't want to. Most people don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
And most people have small enough amounts of money at the bank that it's really not going to make a huge difference. However, what they don't calculate is that small amount of money over a long amount of time
adds up,
and that's going to add up.
Snowball.
Right? Do you use Google Pay? Apple Pay?
I use Apple Pay and Google Pay. More Apple Pay probably 5 to 1.
You have both. That's really interesting.
Both. Yeah.
And you have them both on your iPhone?
Yes.
You bang your watch on the thing?
Let me be clear here. Apple Pay native to iOS, Google Pay only within Chrome. So I only use Google Pay for online transactions.
Okay. And why do you use do you have PayPal?
I do.
You use it for online transactions?
I've been using it more over the past couple of years than I did previously.
Yeah.
Mainly because I think it was an Amex trick. I think Amex was like, use it, we'll give you some money back. And I started using it and it was fine. I also will use it anytime I think the vendor is sketchy, which I'm not sure actually buys me anything. I think I'm better off using Amex.
You use PayPal or you use Google Pay?
PayPal.
Because why? Because
if they accept both, I'll lean towards Google Pay.
Because you have more faith in Google that you will get a fair transaction.
Yep.
And if not, you'll get your money back.
And with PayPal, it's not that I'm going to get my money back because I'm pretty sure if the transaction goes sideways, PayPal's never going to give me my money back. But they don't have my card number.
Interesting.
Because I memorize my card number. I'm an efficiency dork, so I memorize my card numbers.
Yeah.
And I don't, if I'm at some sketchy site, my card gets lifted every couple of years. I have to then get a new card and rememorize it. And
see, I'm an efficiency dork, so I just bang my watch. I don't know any numbers. I barely know it. I mean, it's just the default of whatever I've set up on my watch, so I don't have to know any of that.
I still feel like there's a decent number of places that I go often that do not support Apple Pay, so I can't just bang my watch.
Oh, I almost never encounter a place, and I'm sure they support Apple Pay and Google equally.
Sure.
I'm not pushing one over the other, but everywhere I go seems to support Google Pay. I can tap my watch almost everywhere now.
No. And then I like to use my watch when I travel for boarding passes.
Yeah.
You should have seen me at the Austin airport try to jam my hand under the scanner because there's like 3 inches room. I'm like, we're going to make it fucking work.
And your QR code must have just been minuscule.
And this one was just looking at me and I was like, we're going to make it work.
And did it work?
No. Use my phone.
Oh.
I literally have fat wrists. I couldn't get it in there. I just couldn't get it in there.
It takes a little more resolution to make the QR code work.
No, that part's fine. There's literally the physical room. I couldn't get my wrist under the scanner.
Could you take your watch off and put it into the...
Yeah, but then you take it off, it locks.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so I just got on my phone. I just had to spare the people behind me.
So what I wanted to talk about was, besides tap to pay, I think Apple has, they're not, by the way, giving the best interest rates. If you shop around, there are easily dozens of banks who are giving higher interest rates for savings and don't require you to own a certain credit card.
Sure.
They don't require you to take the credit card. And they have minimum balances of 0 you have to keep and, all the same perks, and you can get higher interest rates. I don't think that's going to matter. I think banking is about to change in a big way because people will happily move their stuff over. It's so frictionless.
Frictionless, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I also think most people, I think the vast majority of people aren't utilizing any sort of personal service from their bank. It's very transactional and sort of almost like faceless, if you will. And it seems to be going more that way, like automated teller machines that do more than just cash withdrawal.
Going that way 30 years ago, sure.
So, but now more so than ever, right? Like you walk into a B of A, you just take a bunch of checks and just shove it into a slot, and it figures it all out for you. It scans it, and
you can if you're staying under a certain level, you can just do it on your phone. You don't even have to go to the B of A.
Which I think if there's no bigger fuck you to signing a piece of paper, it's that. It's like, no, we don't actually need the paper. Just take an image of it. And it's like,
but that's been the case for a long time. That law's been passed a long time ago.
But why we're still using like little pieces of quaint paper that we sign on back and forth, like, is just beyond me.
And there's a 0 hour where it clears. There's all sorts of things about banking that is
the float. How's the float?
It's just full of anachronisms, which is, by the way, I think what has allowed cryptocurrency to be so interesting to most people, because the way banks work is rooted in something that's 100+ years old.
Totally. I mean, we talked about this last segment, right? Like if you don't adapt, you just die.
Well, but it's taken a long time. They've gotten away with it. They're charging interest rates for loans, and they are charging charging fees for even having small savings account, not large savings account, small savings account. They're charging fees as if Gladys is having to go to the back, pull your file out, and stamp your thing with the date.
None of that shit's happening.
None of that stuff's happening. Servers are free. I mean, they're practically free.
Yeah.
So banking is ripe for disruption.
Sure.
And it sure seems to me Apple is the company to disrupt it.
Without a doubt.
I think this is the start of something huge.
I mean, once they roll out Apple Pay, I was like, this is going to be a thing. Because what is Apple Pay? Is a network that's sitting on top of your credit card. That's how it started.
Right.
It's like, well,
now it's their own credit card.
Cut out the fucking credit card, right? You don't need
Just
the credit card.
One step less.
And then as you get more Apple Pay penetration, you don't need the little Visa or MasterCard logo and whatever the 15 bips, whatever they charge just for having the fucking logo on the thing.
Right. This happened because of a quirk in history. The thing that made this possible, Apple Pay, being able to have savings accounts.
A quirk in history.
They are, because they're not a licensed bank. They're not a bank.
No.
So they have to have someone who is a bank behind them.
Yeah, okay, I know what
and there's literally not a bank who doesn't have a consumer-facing business that this wouldn't cannibalize.
Sure.
Turns out there actually is just one.
Yeah.
And it's Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
And do you know how they became a bank?
I'm guessing Goldman put a big pile of money in someone's pocket at some point.
No, it's not even
like a dump
anything.
truck full of money?
What happened was we had the Great Recession in 2007.
Yep.
Banks were going to go under left and right, and they were doing everything they could do to prop up all the banks as best they could. Goldman was an investment bank.
Yep.
In fact, they had worked with Apple quite a bit.
Okay.
When Steve Jobs, they didn't take Apple public, but when Steve Jobs came back to Apple from Next, he needed money desperately. They had 60 days worth of cash and they would have been dead, or at least that's the way he told it. So they needed to raise some overnight paper, and Goldman jumped in and did that for them, and Goldman has been their buddy ever since.
Sure.
2007, 2008 financial crisis. Goldman is in some financial trouble. And the Treasury Department allows Goldman, if they would like the option, to become a bank.
Oh, interesting.
Now they are
a retail bank.
Correct. Now they have access to all sorts of services and help and to survive.
Yep.
That's how Goldman becomes a bank holding company.
Yeah.
So Apple is not a bank, but Goldman Sachs is a bank that does have no consumer facing, no noticeable consumer, of merit, consumer facing business. So the two of them together now have been able to go into this and create savings accounts that are, quote unquote, high yield savings accounts.
Yeah.
What's next? Where are they going next with this? The banking services that they're going to be able to provide and the lack of friction in those services, this is going to change banking.
For sure.
In a huge way. I think you're a year away from Apple being able to say truthfully that they might hold more deposits than any other bank in banking. Now, the only thing that will slow that is deposits are sticky, as we've noted.
Yeah, sure.
But in time,
they've been less sticky the past, 3 months than they've ever been.
Because people don't trust their banks. It's something like
FRC had $100 billion in withdrawals in like the month of March.
27% of people say they strongly believe in their bank, while the rest of the people don't. So the numbers are terrible.
73% is waiting in line. They couldn't answer the poll because they're waiting in line to get their money out.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Trust in banks is at an all-time low.
Yeah, I mean that's why FRC got hammered, right? First Republic got hammered because so many of their clients had money beyond the limit. They were just like, we're going to take that now and put it somewhere else.
Now, here's the big hiccup in all of this. Consortium of banks, 7 banks have got together, and they want to make a wallet. They've all tried individually, by the way.
Stupid.
There's been tons of these people trying to do their own. Chase tried to do one. Capital One tried to do one. Walmart Pay tried to do one. Kroger Pay tried to do a wallet. Samsung's got a wallet that's actually semi-successful, but small potatoes compared to what Apple's is going to be. Small potatoes compared to Google's. But a consortium of 7 banks have gotten together, and they're creating a wallet that is called Paze. Paze.
Terrible name.
Well, not only is it a terrible name, the friction, because it's not your phone, I think is insurmountable.
Send a fax.
I'm sure it's going to be a card that has a chip on it where you tap to pay or whatever. But again, I'm not taking a card out of my wallet when I can just turn my wrist over.
Totally. Sign this form here, get it notarized here.
I'm not sure what Paze does to make themselves more attractive than either Google Pay or Apple Pay. And Apple Pay in particular because it has a savings account.
It's probably more attractive to the consortium because it's less fees, but it's not more attractive to the consumer.
I don't know if it's less fees or not. I don't know how that will work. Apple takes a little fraction of a percent from every transaction, but they don't take it from the person doing the buying. They take it from the credit card, which is why a lot of credit cards don't work with Apple Pay.
Sure.
Right.
I definitely see where that goes away. I don't see how a consortium of banks, unless they're super forward thinking, I don't see how they get that done. I mean, it'd have to be native on all, like you said, on all the phone stacks, which is feasible. But
Apple Pay is native on the phone stack.
Of course.
16.5, version 16.5 of iOS, I believe, has it. It's built into it. I mean, it's,
Apple Pay? No, way earlier than that.
But the savings account, you've got to have a fairly recent version of iOS.
Sure. That makes sense.
Something like 75% of Apple phones have activated Apple Pay.
Because they put it in the onboarding process.
The percentage is huge.
Yeah. And the onboarding process is pretty smooth for it.
Pays ain't going to have that.
Nope. No, that's interesting to me. It definitely feels like a wolf in sheep's clothing, it being Apple.
So is this the next thing that the European Union comes after?
Probably.
Because banks aren't going to be happy about this.
No, banks aren't going to be happy about this at all.
I don't see the bank's consortium card having any dent, making any dent in this.
But isn't this just competition to existing banks? Like, isn't that a good thing?
But it's so much bigger.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, Apple has so much more access now that they've got you used to, for most people, probably tapping their phone. For some of us, tapping our watches. I don't think anyone has that kind of scale to disrupt the industry like this.
Yeah, nobody's got the scale to disrupt like they can, for sure.
Well, Google does. Think about how many phones
Android devices out there.
How many Android devices?
5x the number of Apple devices.
72%, and iOS is 27% of devices.
4x.
So yeah, 4x. It's a pretty significant difference.
That's a lot of devices. I think we'll absolutely have it. But I think I'll be curious is like, am I getting a mortgage from Apple sometime soon? Like, are they going to get?
I don't see why they would stop.
Products?
I don't see why not.
Right?
I would think that's exactly
once
where
you have the
go.
relationship. Like, and the current mortgage process is not exactly what I'd call streamlined. I feel like there's a lot of room to make that more efficient.
Oh, for sure. Current payment process. I mean,
oh yeah, good point.
A guy comes to you at the restaurant and hands you the bill. You hand him your credit card. He goes somewhere and does something magic and comes back to you. If you go to Europe, by the way, they bring the machine to you, so they never touch your credit card.
Which always catches me just how Pavlovian I am when I go there and I go to hand them the credit card and they look at me like I'm got three heads.
They can't touch it.
They can't touch it.
They literally won't touch it.
No, we don't
want
that
it's
thing.
Poison.
Meanwhile, here, and this drives me fucking crazy. It happens every month or two. Someone's like, "Oh, let me just write down your credit card number." I'm like, "Don't do that." I'm like, "We'll just write it down so we bill you later." I'm like, "Please, God, don't do that. Please." Like, what are you worried about? I'm like, everyone getting my credit card number because you just hand keyed into some system,
right?
And somehow that's still allowed. Like, no, I still have to sign a piece of paper when I go to the restaurant. What planet am I on that I have to do that?
Well, also, I mean, why doesn't it just take a voice print and I can just say, pay that?
I have the card. I have the physical card. Like, if you want something else, put on two-factor, but not my signature. It's ridiculous. And a piece of paper that's got to get printed out and then shoved on a spike somewhere. Like, just tap the card. Every other country on the planet.
Let me just say that the Apple Pay, which is going to just, in my view, is going to increasingly take over financial services. And Google theoretically can do the same thing, I guess. Consider the one bank that's left then.
Goldman Sachs?
What happens to Goldman Sachs when Apple starts to cut them out? Because that's where that's going.
Are they going to be big enough to be able to cut out Goldman Sachs?
Yeah. Apple, absolutely, and they're the front face of all of it. So of course,
Apple's got like $3 trillion in deposits, and Goldman's like, "Please stay with us." I'm like, no.
Well, even now, Goldman is paying a fortune to even be part of this party.
Interesting.
Goldman lost $1 billion on Apple Pay. It's $3 billion in the last 3 years, something like that. And
interesting.
They're perfectly happy to continue. $1.2 billion is what they lost in the first 9 months of 2022.
Wow.
And a $1 billion pre-tax loss for 2021. And they're losing, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. They're hoping eventually this works out for them. I think long term, this is not going to work out for them.
What's the loss?
I think there are a lot of people who think.
So they're writing down bad debt.
They have to. Apple's not writing down the bad debt.
Of course. No, of course. But I just want to know where it's coming from. Chase. How much does Chase write down?
Chase has better controls over who they allow to have a Chase card.
Got it. Okay.
They're much more picky about who their customers are. Just because you can afford $1,000 one-time payment for an iPhone doesn't mean you're a good credit risk.
But just because you have an iPhone doesn't guarantee you're going to get the Apple card. You still have to go through like an application process. They still accept you.
But the bar is so minimal.
Why?
Goldman has a lot of money they can potentially lose in starting this business, and it's not going to hurt them. But at the same time, I think ultimately Goldman is cut out of this business.
And we think it's bad if you don't pay your Apple card bill. They just brick your phone. That's what it should be.
That would be awesome.
You got 60 days. And we start turning off features on your phone one at a time. You like text messaging? Not anymore. You don't.
You want to browse?
Snapchat?
You aren't browsing.
Not a thing.
Pay your bills.
You know what happens next week? We turn off email. And they just keep going. And then all you can do is they can call one phone number. That's it.
To give money to pay your bill.
I'm sorry. Do you like air fryer videos? Nope. Not anymore. You don't. Just turn it all off. People pay their fucking bills right away. It's basically a digital repossession.
All right. We got to get out of here. But quickly, before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Well, it's the start of the best time of the year. You know what that is, right?
I'm guessing for you, it's going to be the hockey playoffs.
Hockey playoffs. That's right. Lots and lots of playoff hockey.
Did you watch my Kings lose?
I did not see that game.
Yeah.
The Kings are my number 2 team. My number 1 team did not make the playoffs this year, so we don't talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you've been watching the Kings?
I have been watching some of the Kings games. They're doing well. Yeah, so I mean that's what I've watched. And
A giant waste of my weekend. I could not get away from NBA basketball and hockey.
Do you only watch sports that have some kind of clock involved in it?
Now that baseball has a pitch clock, yeah, I think it is all clock dependent. In fact, I'm going to say my thing of the week is just Dodgers. We are having a great old time.
Yeah?
Mookie Betts has moved from right field to shortstop. How? No. This is the level of difficulty of learning. It's like being a scuba diver who suddenly learns to, fly to the moon.
Okay, I don't know anything about baseball, but those seem like two very different things.
Right. Playing in right field and playing shortstop could not be more different if they had to be.
So why did they move him to shortstop?
Because he's good.
He's really good at it?
Because he's really good at it.
That's amazing.
That's the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all of this nonsense, a truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.production. I'm CJ Little.
I'm the other guy.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or our favorite, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts from.
Podcastindex.org. Special thanks to our floor director, Max Little.
Max, you better get your ass to school. We'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us. I think the dementia's setting in.